Stop scrolling. Seriously. Stop, because you didn't land here by accident. Not with the ache you've been carrying. That pressure in your chest when everything seems fine on paper. But something in you keeps whispering. This isn't it. You've been calling it boredom, anxiety, distraction, even laziness. But deep down, you know it has a different name. It's your soul tapping the glass. And if you ignore it, it doesn't vanish. It gets louder, sharper, undeniable. Little nudges, timing. A sentence that hits too hard. A pattern you can't unsee. And the reason it feels so personal is because it is. Let me prove it. Because there are a few signs that show up right before your life starts changing. Most people miss this because it's quiet. It doesn't kick down your door. It slips in between your thoughts when the noise finally dies. And that's why it's so easy to brush off. You tell yourself you're just tired. You'll feel better after the weekend, after the next paycheck, after you get your life together. But when you ignore inner knowing, it doesn't politely disappear. It reroutes. It shows up as burnout that makes simple things feel heavy, as repeating relationships that start different and end the same, as numbness, scrolling, snacking, staying busy, anything to avoid that one question waiting underneath. What am I really doing? Then one day the restlessness spikes for no reason. You wake up unsettled. You can't focus. You feel like you're wasting something you can't name. And the scariest part is how fast you can talk yourself out of it again. If you keep scrolling, you'll forget what you just felt. But if you stay, by the end you'll know what the signal is, why it's happening now, and exactly what to do with it. That's the price of pretending you didn't hear. First, you need to recognize the exact feeling you've been trying to outrun. You might look around and think you have no right to feel this way. Your life is fine. You're functioning. You show up. You laugh at the right moments. You pay bills, answer messages, keep the routine moving. And yet, something feels slightly misaligned. Like you're wearing a life that fits on the outside, but pinches everywhere underneath. It's the restlessness that visits when the room gets quiet. The late-night stare at the ceiling. The sudden urge to change everything. The weird grief you can't explain. You start craving meaning the way you crave air. Small talk starts to exhaust you. Certain friends feel familiar but no longer true. Work that once felt stable now feels like a slow leak. Then come the emotional spikes. A random song that makes you tear up. A sentence that hits like a warning. A moment of peace that scares you because it's real. And the synchronicities. Numbers, names, repeat themes. Like life is highlighting something you keep skipping. This is the part where you assume something's wrong with you. But what if nothing is wrong? What if your identity is shedding because it's outgrown its skin? What if the discomfort isn't a malfunction, but an invitation? Your inner self trying to move you from surviving to being honest. If you felt that, you're not behind. You're waking up. You're sensing the gap between who you've been and who you're becoming. And that gap demands your attention more than ever today. And if you've felt that, here's sign one: your soul is already ahead of your mind. At first, it looks like you're losing your spark. The shows you used to binge don't hit. The memes don't land. You scroll for 10 minutes, then 20, then an hour, and somehow you're still unsatisfied. Conversations that used to feel fun start to sound like reruns. You nod, you smile, but inside you're thinking, is this really all we talk about? That's sign one. Not depression, not laziness, A new hunger. Boredom is often your system refusing to settle for a life that's too small. It's the moment your inner self stops being impressed by noise. You can still achieve things, finish the project, hit the goal, get the compliment, and instead of feeling proud, you feel empty. Like you just proved you can climb a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall. Old desires were about stimulation, more attention, more approval, more certainty. The new hunger is about meaning, truth, depth, integrity, contribution. And when meaning starts calling, shallow wins stop satisfying. That doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It means you're evolving. Most people medicate this with distraction. They add more tabs, more plans, more people, more scrolling, because admitting, "I've outgrown this," would require change. But boredom isn't the enemy. It's data. It's a signal that your next chapter is asking to be taken seriously. And if you're noticing this, you are closer than you think, because the next sign is even louder. It's the pull you can't explain, and it won't let you stay comfortable. But boredom is just the surface. Here's the next sign that's louder, and most people misread it. Maybe it's a subject you keep circling back to. Psychology, astrology, business, healing, art, a language. A city you've never even visited. You watch one video, then another, and suddenly you're saving posts like you're collecting clues. It's not rational. It's not convenient. And it doesn't fit the version of you that everyone expects. That's the pull. And it's rarely loud. It feels like curiosity with a heartbeat. Like a door in a hallway you didn't know existed. And every time you try to walk past it, you feel yourself glance back. You might try to talk yourself out of it. It's just a phase. I'm too old. I don't have time. It won't pay. But the strange thing is, the pull doesn't argue with you. It just returns. Quietly, repeatedly, until ignoring it feels harder than exploring it. Here's what most people don't realize. Your next chapter rarely introduces itself with a full plan. It shows up as fascination before it shows up as certainty. It gives you breadcrumbs, not a map, because it's trying to get you moving, not overthinking. So pay attention to what keeps calling your name when nobody's watching. What you research for fun. What you'd do if you knew you couldn't fail. Those aren't random interests. They are invitations. It's how your soul tests whether you'll listen without needing permission first. And then comes the one that confuses people the most, because it looks like a problem. Then there's the sign nobody wants. Things start slipping. A plan you were sure about stalls. A door you expected to open stays locked. A relationship shifts, not with a dramatic breakup, but with a slow feeling that you're speaking different languages. You try to force it back to normal, but normal doesn't fit anymore. This is where people panic and call it failure. But sometimes it's not collapse, it's correction. Not everything is a sign, and not every inconvenience is spiritual. But when the same kind of friction keeps appearing, same lesson, same type of person, same dead-end outcome, it's worth asking why life is redirecting you. Your soul won't always guide you with comfort. Sometimes it guides you by removing what you've been clinging to. You may feel your identity wobble, like you don't know who you are without the role you've been playing. The reliable one, the achiever, the peacemaker, the one who never changes. And that wobble is scary because it's honest. It's the old self loosening its grip, so pause and look with clear eyes. What keeps getting delayed? What keeps getting exposed? What keeps getting removed even after you try to fix it? You might be watching an outdated life uninstall itself. And if that's happening, don't rush to rebuild the same thing. Let the reroute speak. It can feel unfair, but it's precise. What falls apart is often what would have kept you small. Pay attention. Right now, gently. Now let's put these signs together because there are two versions of you standing here right now. Right now, there are two versions of you standing at the same crossroads. One version keeps living on autopilot. You wake up and reach for your phone before you reach for your own mind. You say yes when you mean maybe, and you mean maybe when you mean no. You keep the peace, keep the job, keep the routine, keep the image. You tell yourself you'll start when you have more time. More money, more certainty, more confidence. Someday becomes a hiding place, and the cost is quiet. A low-grade resentment you can't explain. A constant need to numb. A strange anger at people who seem alive. The other version is aligned. Not perfect, not fearless, just honest. You stop treating your life like something you'll begin later. You scroll less because you're finally listening more. You set boundaries that feel awkward at first, but then feel like oxygen. You choose meaningful discomfort over familiar emptiness. You trade approval for direction, and slowly, your days stop feeling like something that happens to you. They start feeling like something you're building. Here's the truth nobody can decide for you. Both versions will be tired. Both will face uncertainty, but only one of them will feel like you. Autopilot will keep you busy, but it won't keep you fulfilled. Alignment will ask for courage, but it gives you back your voice, your time, your spirit again. And this moment, this exact moment, is where the split happens. Not when everything is ready, not when you are fixed. It happens when you notice the signal and respond, even in a small way, before the world pulls you back into sleep. So ask yourself, which life are you rehearsing every day without realizing it? Let me tell you a quick story that will make this uncomfortably clear. Someone I know hit this point in the most ordinary way. Nothing dramatic happened at first. They were doing okay, job, friends, plans. Yet every night they felt a thin layer of dread, like tomorrow was a copy of today. They ignored it the way most people do. They stayed busy. They told themselves they were being ungrateful. Then life got noisier. A project they had leaned on for identity suddenly stalled. Their phone was full of group chats, but they felt alone. Even the things that used to distract them started feeling pointless, like eating paper. One night, after an hour of scrolling, they caught their reflection and broke. Just a quiet, exhausted honesty. I cannot keep living like I am waiting for my real life. The next morning, they did not quit their job. They did not move to a new city. They did something smaller, and it worked. They opened a note and wrote one sentence. The only thing that has ever made me feel alive is... They did not overthink it. They filled the blank with the thing they had been secretly drawn to for months. Then they took a tiny step that felt almost stupid. They messaged one person who was already doing that thing and asked a simple question. No pitch, no grand plan, just curiosity with courage. That message turned into a conversation. That conversation turned into a resource. A resource turned into a weekend experiment. The experiment did not magically solve everything. But it did something more important. It proved they were not trapped. It proved the pull was real. It proved movement creates clarity. Within a few weeks, their restlessness did not vanish. But it changed flavor. It became direction. They started saying no to what drained them, not out of anger, but out of respect for what was waking up inside them. And the scariest part was not the uncertainty anymore. The scariest part was realizing how long they had been pretending they did not know. And the truth is, nothing external gave them permission first. They just stopped negotiating with the feeling and treated it like guidance instead of a glitch. If you are listening to this and your chest feels tight, not because you are scared, but because you recognize yourself, that is not coincidence. That is the moment they were in. That might be the moment you are in. So here is the question. If your soul already knows, how do you hear it clearly today? Here's a framework you can use without guessing, without waiting for a sign to slap you in the face, and without turning your life into a dramatic experiment. Think of it like clearing static from a radio. You're not creating the signal. You're removing what's drowning it out. You're not trying to pick one perfect destiny in a single sitting. You're trying to notice what keeps staying true across seasons. Purpose is usually quieter than ego, and it rarely arrives as a lightning bolt. It arrives as consistency, the same nudge, the same theme, the same pull, again and again. First is the quiet test. Ask, what feels true when you're not performing for anyone? When nobody is watching, what do you still return to? What do you read about at 1 a.m.? What idea makes you feel calm and scared at the same time? If your life had no audience, what would you build? And what did you love before you learned to call it impractical? Second is the energy audit. Your purpose leaves fingerprints on your energy. Notice what drains you in a way sleep can't fix, and what energizes you even when it's hard. Which people make you shrink? Which conversations make you sit up straighter? After you leave a room, do you feel expanded or tight? Which tasks make time disappear? And which tasks make you check the clock every 5 minutes? Write 2 columns, depletes, and charges, and don't negotiate with what your body tells you. Third is the pattern clue. You are not random, and your story has repeating themes. Look back at the last 5 years. What lesson keeps coming back in different clothing? Speaking up? Trusting yourself? Creating instead of consuming? Helping others through what you survived? What problem do people always come to you with, even when you don't advertise it? Patterns are your soul's way of underlining the curriculum until you finally read it. Fourth is the jealousy compass. This one stings, which is why it's so useful. Envy isn't always ugliness. Sometimes it's a map. Name 3 people you can't stop watching, even if you pretend you don't care. What triggers that tight feeling of, must be nice? What are they doing that you secretly want to do? Is it their freedom, their discipline, their creativity, their confidence? Instead of shaming the feeling, translate it into a request. I want more of that in my life. Fifth is the one-step rule. Purpose is revealed through motion, not overthinking. Pick one tiny action you can do within 24 hours that honors what you're noticing. Not a life overhaul, a message, a page, a walk without your phone, signing up for one class, creating one piece, researching one path for 30 focused minutes. Make it concrete. When will you do it? And what does done look like? Action turns intuition into information. Now combine the answers. If your quiet test, energy audit, patterns, and jealousy compass all point toward the same direction, that's not a coincidence. That's alignment trying to introduce itself. You don't need the final destination. You need a truthful next step, repeated. That's how clarity starts trusting you back. But even if you know the answer, there are 2 traps that will try to steal it from you. Once you start seeing your direction, 2 forces show up immediately. Not because you're weak, but because alignment threatens the old life. The first trap is fear dressed as logic. It sounds mature, responsible. Be realistic. You don't have what it takes. People like you don't do things like that. Wait until you're more confident. But notice what it never offers you, a real timeline. Fear doesn't want you safe. It wants you stuck in familiar discomfort where it can predict you. The reframe is simple. You're not asking for permission to be certain. You're asking for permission to begin. The second trap is distraction dressed as rest. It tells you, you deserve a break. And sometimes you do. But distraction isn't recovery. It's avoidance that feels harmless. One more scroll, one more episode, one more day. I'll start tomorrow becomes the soft lie that steals months. And the scary part is how normal it feels. Here's the grounding line. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a truthful next step. The smallest honest action beats the biggest imaginary future. Clarity doesn't come to people who think about it. It comes to people who practice listening. And I need you to hear this. This window of clarity doesn't stay loud forever. If you don't act while it's here, life will hand you the same lesson again, just with higher stakes. So before you scroll again, do this, right after this video ends. So here's what you know now. When you get bored with what used to excite you, when you feel pulled towards something you can't justify yet, and when life starts breaking in small ways, it might not be bad luck, it might be work. The quiet test, the energy audit, the patterns, the jealousy compass, and then the one-step rule. Don't wait to feel ready. Act while it's real. When this video ends, write one sentence. I think I'm here to start. Then choose one tiny step you will take in the next 24 hours to honor it. If you're committing, comment "Aling, ready" or your next step. Subscribe if you want more of this, and watch the next video if you're not done yet. Because the fact that you're here might be the sign you've been asking for.